Welcome to the On Brand Podcast, the show where we dive into branding, marketing, and living life on brand. I'm your host, Jessica Carr, a marketing strategist with over a decade of experience helping businesses of all sizes amplify their impact and connect with their audience. Together, we'll explore actionable strategies, inspiring stories, and the latest trends to elevate your business and personal brand. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a creative, or someone ready to make bold moves, you're in the right place. Let's do this. Welcome to the On Brand Podcast. My name is Jessica Carr. I am a full funnel holistic marketing strategist. I have 12 years of experience working in marketing with anywhere from startups to some of the largest brands in the world. My mission is to help entrepreneurs and business owners learn more about marketing so they are empowered to do it themselves and learn more about the marketing process in their business. On this podcast, I'm diving into, marketing strategy, of course, interviews with incredible entrepreneurs and business owners, inspiring stories, and the latest trends in marketing. I absolutely love marketing. I truly do when I say that. I could literally talk about marketing all day long, especially marketing strategy. Marketing is something that I am extremely passionate about because I see it as a way to help people. Now, I'll explain why I feel that way, but first, let me give you a little bit of my background. I started working in marketing when I was a freshman in college. I got my first job in marketing at the Entrepreneurship Institute at my university that I went to. I was not qualified for that position, but I was extremely passionate. And so somehow I, through pure determination, ended up getting this job. And it was so fun. And it really shaped my career. I had the most incredible boss at that job. She was an amazing mentor. And I actually, through that role, got started in the tech industry, working with tech startups and student entrepreneurs who were starting their own companies. Apps at the time were a really big deal. Oh my goodness, the apps. There were so many app ideas. It's almost like the AI of today. It was apps. Soon after I started that role, I became the youngest ambassador in the world for Google, which was crazy. I was an ambassador for Google for 8 years. My role was to run monthly user group meetings where we taught the community about Google technologies. We also ran 2 conferences every year in our community. One of them was called a Dev Fest or Developer Fest. We ran the largest family developer conference in the state a couple years in a row. And also, that's when Women Tech Makers was starting when I was in that program. So Women Tech Makers is a global program that Google has that helps encourage women to get into the STEM fields and help support them through their career. I've been in roles where I've managed multi-million-dollar ad campaigns, and I've also helped startups with a $0 marketing budget. Through my experience over the last 12 years, I have really learned to embrace a full funnel marketing strategy, which means essentially that I specialize in it's kind of like a jack of all trades in marketing. There's people who specialize in different areas of marketing. You'll hear people who are like paid ad experts and branding experts and content creator experts and all those different things. My job is to create a strategy that integrates all of those different areas in the marketing and making sure that they're all working together. And in my experience, there's not a lot of people who can do that, which makes it very interesting and fun because I'm always learning about all the different areas of marketing. This is why I love marketing, is this phrase right here that I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to repeat this a lot because it's one of my core principles that I believe in. So the reason why I feel like I help people and why I love marketing is because of this. Entrepreneurship or starting a business is finding a solution to someone's pain. When you start a business, you identify that there is a gap or a pain or something that you can do to help people. Marketing is helping people find the solution to their pain. You cannot solve someone's pain and fulfill that need if people don't know about it. So that's why I love marketing. The goal of this podcast and my business is to help you learn how to promote and market your business and help you bring awareness to your business so you can help the people that you want to help. That to me is what marketing is. That's energetically how I align with marketing. And that is why I love marketing so much. So, through this podcast and through the services that I offer through my business, I help specifically women because I love women. I love women because I think women are so intelligent and they are so thoughtful and creative and amazing and compassionate and empathetic. My God, I love working with women. So that's who I specialize working with is women. And so I love helping women grow their businesses. And so that is the goal here. Through this podcast, through my services, I have upcoming courses and different products so I can help people at every price point. My goal is to teach women how to do their marketing in their business and teach them about the marketing process. So when they get to the point where they hire someone to help them with their marketing, they understand the marketing process enough to know how to thoroughly vet people to help in their marketing as well. So let's go back to that full funnel holistic strategy I was talking about in every point of marketing. This is kind of my process that I have identified and developed through learning the different areas of marketing. I didn't really have a full funnel strategist teach me this. This is stuff that I have learned on my own through my career. So for me, and in my experience, everything starts with branding. When I say branding, I'm not talking about your logo and colors. Now, that's a part of it, but that comes much later, actually. What I specialize in or what I really believe in is customer-centric branding. So first, it's going to be, especially if you are the face and voice of your business, so it's going to be a lot of internal reflection and figuring out you and your passions because that shows up in your brand if you're doing a personal brand. But even if you're doing a business brand, that messaging is important too. You really want to figure out who you are serving. Who is your customer, right? And once we really figure out who your customer is, I like to dive into what are their habits? What other brands do they interact with? What is their price point for things, right? Because that will change everything as far as your visual branding goes. So for instance, if your customer likes to shop at Target, get Starbucks and use Tide laundry detergent, that's going to dictate that visual branding. But if that customer goes to Sprouts, Whole Foods, or Trader Joe's, that's going to be very different because those brands look very different than Target. And so that's going to push the visual branding in another direction. Also, what type of experience do they expect? For instance, if they love shopping for luxury handbags, that is a very different experience than going to Target to buy their handbags. And so we really have to look at who your customer is and figure out how to mimic that in your business and your branding. There's a lot more that goes into it, but that just kind of gives you an example of things that we look at when we're creating your branding before we even get to the visual elements. So then, of course, we do the visual elements, including your logo, colors, fonts, all of those things. We really have to look at your customer and the industry before we can go into that. But after that, we move into your online presence. We look at your website, aligned with your brand is the experience there. Once again, we go into that customer-centric branding. So if they drive a Lexus or a Benz, that is a very different website online experience than like a Nissan or even a Toyota. You can go look at those websites and you'll notice a very big difference in the look and feel and the design behind them because they have done a really good job tapping into their customer personas. Once we make sure that your online presence is there, we want to create those sales funnels. We look at your landing pages. We look at, how does someone move through the process of working through you? We want to eliminate any unnecessary clicks. For instance, if you're trying to convert someone to book a session or buy your product, how do we get them there faster? How do we overcome the obstacles? How do we make sure they are getting the right messages at the right time in their journey with you? Then we're going to look at your content strategy, right? We're going to look at your social media strategy. We're going to look at your PR strategy. And then finally, at the very end, we look at your ad strategy. I'll go into that a little bit more in a different podcast episode about why I truly believe, and in my experience, you really need to work on and create consistency in your organic strategies before you even touch ads. And there is a big revenue difference for a reason. I personally do not like wasting money. And maybe I need to rephrase that. I'm trying to be more positive with my relationship and the way I talk about money. I don't like unnecessary spending of money, especially when it comes to your business, because a lot of businesses, when they're first starting out, they have a tight budget. I don't want unnecessary spending. I see a lot of unnecessary spending in ads. I want to make sure that your ROI or your return on investment is really high. There are ways and strategies to ensure that versus just throwing money at ads and hoping things convert. That's not the energy. That's not what we do here. That is not what smart, strategic women business owners do. We are smart. We are very strategic. We value our money. We value our time and our energy that it took to earn that money. And we are going to spend it smart and strategically. That is what I'm here to teach you how to do. Now, that's just the baseline that goes into every single business, every single industry, every type of business. Doesn't matter if you're doing product services, whatever. Those are the areas that we work on. Now, there's other aspects of marketing that could also be integrated depending on the business. For instance, like event marketing. There's some companies that do event marketing, and that's a huge part of their business. And I'm all there for it. I've done a lot of event marketing campaigns in my career. That could be added to the strategy, but it won't apply to every business because not every business is going to have an event marketing strategy. Same for print. There is a time and place for print. Some people love print marketing, and I love that for them, but it has to be done strategically in a way that makes sense for me. Or even things like billboards and print ads. If it's done strategically and it makes sense with the right audience targeting, all for it. I'm not just a fan of throwing up random billboards or throwing random ads in random magazines. That is not the energy. We do things smart strategically, and I'm here to teach you how to do that. Now, all of these tactics play into different areas of the marketing funnel. So I'm going to quickly go over what the marketing funnel is, just so you know in future episodes what I'm referring to. Of course, I'll explain it further in other episodes, just in case you missed this one. And also, I'm going to keep explaining it because the more you hear about something, the more you learn. So I'm going to introduce you to the marketing funnel. There are 3 main stages in a marketing funnel. Sometimes there's 4, depending on whose graphic you're looking at. But if you Google marketing funnel, you're going to see an upside down triangle, and it's going to show you these 3 stages. So the first one is the awareness stage. The awareness stage is when people are just learning about you. Next is consideration or engagement. Sometimes that term's used interchangeably. I like to think of it as the engagement stage, but some people refer to it as the consideration stage. That's when people are engaging with your company. They're looking at your website, your services, asking for reviews, reading reviews. All those things are in the consideration or engagement stage. And the last stage is your conversion stage. And that's when you actually close the sale. So that's when people hire you, they buy your product, they buy your digital course, whatever that is the conversion stage. That is the bottom stage of the funnel. You can use each area of marketing for each stage of the funnel. And that's where strategy gets really fun. There are organic content creation strategies for each stage of the funnel. There's ad strategies for each stage of the funnel. There's every tactic or almost every tactic in marketing can be applied at each stage of the funnel. So that's why strategy gets really fun. It's like a big puzzle for me. I love puzzles, especially marketing puzzles. That's when we work together to figure out which tactic to use at each stage and how those tactics all work together. And that is all dictated on your customer. Your customer will tell us how to implement that. You just have to know what to look for and how to listen for it. So I'm going to use my own business as an example here. You can start to observe these things and apply it in your own business. For me, I've learned the most about marketing when I'm observing my own behaviors, when I'm interacting with brands, and also watching other people interact with them. So, for instance, this podcast is an awareness stage. I don't expect anyone to listen to my podcast and immediately click on a link to download an offer or book a session with me. If that happens, awesome. But usually that is a long-term strategy. You're probably not going to do that until you've been listening to this podcast or interacting with me online for a while, honestly. And I know that. The average sales cycle is about 2 years. So I don't want you to feel discouraged because that's just on average. There's some people that you're going to meet who are going to be ready to work with you immediately, but you have to start laying down that foundation for that long-term success. We can have short-term wins, but we're always keeping the long-term strategy in mind because we expect your business to last a long time. For instance, a farmer has to plant seeds before they can harvest them. This podcast is me planting seeds to be part of that awareness stage to get on your radar that I'm here and I'm here to help you. So then later on, you're going to actually engage and hopefully work with me in one way or another. I'm going to have multiple offers for different price points because I want to help everyone or help as many people as I can. Not everyone. We'll talk about that later. Actually, let's talk about it now. My audience is not everyone. Your audience is not everyone. But it doesn't mean you have to exclude anyone. So, for instance, Apple, the company, they target primarily young professionals in a large city. There is a cattle rancher sitting on a horse in the middle of Wyoming who has an iPhone in his pocket right now. That cattle rancher sitting on that horse is not part of Apple's target audience, but he isn't being excluded either. He or she is not being excluded either. I know a lot of amazing women ranchers. Anyways, so my target audience is women. I love working with women. I think women are so freaking smart and brilliant and strategic. And I love everything that they do. So I'm here to help women. That is my target audience. Does that mean I won't work with men? No, I will work with some men. If there is a man who is an ally to women, I will work with them. Why not? But overall, I love working with women. Also, I love working with entrepreneurs or business owners who are growth minded, who think big. I absolutely will help a small business owner who just wants to have a mom pop shop in a small town. Sure, I'm happy to help them as well. But I really like working with business owners who think big and think scalable because that's how my mind works. I'm always thinking, how can we have a greater impact? How can we do more? How can we reach more people? That's my job, to think that way. And also working with tech companies and large enterprise brands, that's how I've been trained to think and trained to use those strategies. So my target audience is going to be a woman who has a business or starting a business where she wants to have a huge impact and wants to help as many people as possible. I love that. I'm so aligned with that. So when I am putting together or thinking about who my audience is, that's the kind of person I have in mind, and that's who I'm going to be creating content for. This is also a personal branding expedition for me. So I'm building my personal brand while I'm creating this. So I'm going to interject some of my personal things into it as well. So you can get to know me on that personal level because that creates trust, that lets you know who I am, lets you get to know me a little bit more. So for me, I am embarking on a digital nomad journey. So I'm going to be sharing some of that occasionally in some of my podcast content, probably more on social media, a little bit more like day-to-day stuff. So currently at this point in time on December 30th of 2024, when I'm recording this, I am in Scottsdale, Arizona. I am looking out at these beautiful mountains right now, out the window of my travel trailer that I live in full time, that I purchased last spring because I knew I wanted to quit my corporate role, which I did in August, and I wanted to work for myself full time. And that's what I did. I bought a travel trailer because when you're starting a business, everyone knows that money gets a little tight for a minute. And I thought, okay, how do I reduce my expenses as much as I can? How do I get lean so I can start this business and not have to worry so much? So I bought a travel trailer, and that is something I've always wanted to do. Regardless, I traveled a lot in my early 20s. I randomly took a tour bus driving role in college in Alaska and drove across Western Canada like 4 times. I traveled a lot in my early 20s and I love that and I miss it. I always wanted to do either the RV thing or the camper van thing. So this was my way of like, okay, I've always wanted to do this. I'm going to do it now. And it's been an adventure for sure. But I'm really thinking about going beyond that. I'm really wanting to do some international travel. I really want to be a full-on digital nomad. That's also something I have always wanted to do. And so I'm like, hey, what's stopping me? Let's freaking pursue it. So that is part of like my personal stuff that's going on that I want to share with the world so you can get to know me a little bit more. Because I'm also a woman in business and a single woman who's living life with my 2 dogs, I'm going to share things about being a woman and a woman entrepreneur. And I want to work with women entrepreneurs. So I'm probably going to be doing a lot of interviews with women entrepreneurs on this podcast. But I'm going to share my experience as a single woman navigating this world in this podcast as part of my personal brand as well. So that actually leads me into the next section of bullet points I have here on my notes. For upcoming future episodes, because this is an introductory podcast episode about this new podcast that we're launching in January of 2025, the upcoming topics you can expect in this cast is branding and marketing strategies. Like I said, I could talk about branding and marketing all freaking day long. I love it so much, and I will. I will talk your ear off about branding and marketing strategies. Then I plan on doing a lot of interviews with women entrepreneurs. There are so many incredible women I have in my existing network and so many incredible women I've yet to meet that I am so excited to meet that I will have on this podcast. I want to get them a platform. It's a PR opportunity, even if it's not a big podcast yet. I know it will grow, but I want to have as many women and highlight women and share their experience and share their businesses and help them. That is something I'm really passionate about, obviously. So you'll hear some interviews with women entrepreneurs. If you are interested in a free marketing consultation, I'll post opportunities to sign up to have a free consultation with me. The other shoe is that it will be on this podcast. That's the only thing you have to agree to. You're going to talk about your brand, your marketing. It's a free strategy session, but it's going to be on the podcast. And I love this for several reasons. The main one is that I had a Facebook group a few years ago when I had an equestrian marketing business that's since not existing anymore. But I had a Facebook group for equestrian business owners. And we did live consultations with some of the businesses. They would get on and tell me about their business, and we'd just be like shooting strategies for them. And it was so much fun. I enjoyed it because it was a marketing pop quiz for me. So I always love those things. Ladies, I am a nerd when it comes to marketing strategies. I thrive in it. So marketing pop quizzes like that are like my jam. I get so excited for it. So we would get on giving them some good ideas. And people in the group were watching this happen live in real time, and they could ask questions and they loved it. It was so much fun because then they could apply those strategies to their own business, and they had like almost an example of it like playing out. So I love doing that. I want to have those on the podcast. It was a blast. So also on this podcast, because I am a woman in business and we have a very interesting political climate right now, I'll just put it there. If anyone questions, I'm very liberal. I voted for Kamala Harris. So with that being said, on this podcast, I plan on talking about women in business and women's issues. So that's something that's really important to talk about and to have conversations about. And so that is something that we will dive into on this podcast as well. So if you're interested in seeing that part of things, follow me on basically all the platforms except for X. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on YouTube, or will be on YouTube. I am on TikTok and I'm on Instagram as well. So if you're interested in following along on this crazy journey, please follow me on social media, subscribe to the podcast. This is where I will be. Once again, this is just the intro episode to the podcast. I have some other episodes that I'm going to be recording later. And I am really excited for this. I've been wanting to do a podcast for a while, and I finally came up with like the perfect name, which is On Brand, because that's my catchphrase. I love to say things are on brand. And so that's why it's the On Brand podcast. Thank you for listening to the On Brand podcast. If you found today's episode valuable, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who'd love it too. Until next time, keep amplifying your impact and living on brand.